through psychic attunement to the environment. The superior man knows everything, and he knows it instantly. Well, who is the superior man? One who has overcome the obstacles, the obstructions, put there since birth. Born whole, we come into a system or a society that awaits us. We have to adapt to that. This is an adaptive theory of man. It's biology. As a biologist looks at animals in the environment, adapting to that environment, it's the same thing. Traditional psychiatry looks at abnormal behavior as, something wrong inside the person. We look at it as that the system it has to adapt to is crazy. Its maladaptations are the abnormal behavior, but they make sense when you look at the wider system. I wrote my Ph.D. thesis at the University of California on the wife of the alcoholic syndrome. Now that is the craziest environment ever. It's predictably unpredictable. In adapting to that system, the wife gets sicker than the alcoholic. It's called decompensation. And interestingly enough, well, let me back up about my history. I had an alcoholic family. Mother was a raging alcoholic. Father was an alcoholic. She was the wife of the alcoholic. So I had this ingrained from birth, watching all the interactions, and I just knew it all. It was a matter of survival. And so I wrote my PhD thesis on it. And it was this thick, because I knew all the interactions. Like I say, it was a matter of survival to know what everything meant, the nuances, reading between the lines. Well, even though I was an expert on the wife of the alcoholic syndrome, I then married a man, very gallant man, handsome, tall, exalted, and after 3 years, he resumed his drinking career. I did not know he was an alcoholic before I met him. He was sober for 3 years because I was not into drinking. He adapted that way, fell in love, stopped drinking. And then I went into the wife of the alcoholic syndrome. Even though I had wrote my dissertation on it, I went into it. Why is that? Well, something like 85% of the daughters of alcoholics marry alcoholics or become alcoholic themselves. Very interesting. You would think they would be the opposite, wouldn't you? You would think they'd be so sick of that they would marry a teetotaler. Well, I thought I did. But you see, the addictive personality is still in a person, even though they're not drinking. An interesting thing I used to use in my lectures, a woman married, who was a daughter of an alcoholic, married 3 alcoholics in succession. Finally, seeing her pattern, she married a Mormon who didn't drink, and then he became alcoholic. Something in her set up that system. Systems theory is an invisible thing. It's a spiritual. It's because the brain tries to correct a prior system, it will choose mates to correct it, and then it just gets screwed up again. Very interesting and very depressing. I had to go through that whole thing, even though I knew it intellectually. That's through the left brain. I had not learned it through the right brain, but seeing the pattern and resolving it, overcoming the childhood obstruction. So I had to go through this, and now I'm over it. He died of alcoholism, and now I have married a teetotaler. I have not drank since 2010, 16 years, and so life is rosy now. But I remember back in those days, I used to go to Al-Anon, and I met all these women who were the wives of alcoholics, and the things they had to overcome was out of this world. Because it's a conduit to the devil. It's no easy life. It's horrible. When somebody drinks, you don't know what they're going to do. And they're usually quite vitriolic against the wife. insulting her looks, insulting her age, insulting anything, having affairs, stealing, gambling, just wrecking the family income. It's a progressive illness. And let's say if somebody stops drinking at phase 3 of alcoholism, and let's say in 10 years they pick it up again, they may be at stage 5 or 6 because the disease progresses even though they're not drinking. It's just an impossible thing. And I became close to these wives of alcoholics in Al-Anon. Many of them came from alcoholic childhoods. As I say, we reduplicate the original system. And boy, the things they had to overcome. But they had to develop selfhood in themselves in order to survive. So it's very interesting. They actually became better than they ever were before in overcoming that system. Overcoming obstruction is what builds character. The superior man has overcome obstruction, and he is better than ever. Often quote things from my PhD thesis. The soul whispers, the time for unconscious loyalty has ended. We stop choosing pastimes and partners that echo our childhood roles. That's the whole thing. Become an entirely new person. The past was not you at all. The past was your second nature, your fake persona to fit society. We want to go back to your original nature before you got screwed up by the system or the society, to your prepubescent talents and pastimes, what you're born with, not your second nature. We don't want that. That's the maladaptation. That's all the defenses and addictions you developed to find solace in a crazy world. You want to go back to who you were, not to childhood roles in a sick, dysfunctional system. That's just going to recreate. Don't want to recreate. Never forget what I did. I wrote a 2-inch thick dissertation on it, and it was acclaimed. And they thought, how do you know all this? Well, because for survival I had to learn all this, all the nuances in a sick system. But then I married an alcoholic. It didn't matter that he was sober. The addictive personality is in there, and there was the attraction as the brain tried to correct itself. Now, recovery starts the minute you see the pattern. The minute you realize, oh, I married an alcoholic, my dad was an alcoholic, or the minute you realize this, starts the recovery. God is good. We don't have to be chained to this tragic story in our life. We can cut it loose just like that. This is how knowledge is therapy. I'm giving you that knowledge right now. You have the opportunity today to cut it loose and to start an entirely new life as an entirely new person, putting on the Christ, the righteousness of God. We are not righteous. We are a bunch of filthy rags. Okay? Everybody's a sinner. Everybody. We sin to maladapt to this crisis thing we were born into, whether it's society or sister abuse or being molested or all these things brought on our maladaptations. Much of it's sinful. Much of the addictions we develop, sins, in other words, are ways to maladapt. All that's wiped out, and we start an entirely new life, which is wonderful compared to the old life, which was miserable. Have generational curses, things that haven't been worked out in prior generations of your family tree, your bloodline, come down like a boulder to land on the empath in the family, the youngest, the most sensitive. The others could care less. This inherited guilt, this is what I wrote. Your guilt was inherited. This problem, okay, ruptures the spell with the narcissist. The shift is, I will no longer abandon myself for the comfort of others. Do you know that often the psychotic or the schizophrenic child will go crazy to save the mother, will develop diseases to save somebody else? The empath often has this role, actually goes crazy so that they can take the scapegoat role in the family and everybody else can remain sane. So this boulder can come onto them. It's a funny thing how we sacrifice ourselves for others. The minute you see this and recover from that role, somebody else will take that role. Somebody else will be the scapegoat. The funny thing, often when the alcoholic in the system, the alcoholic family system, gets well, recovers into sobriety, somebody else will get sick and become an alcoholic or decompensate. Oftentimes the wife of the alcoholic will become the sick one. Do you know the biggest maladaptation of the wife of the alcoholic is to get drunk herself? And she goes so wild because she's held down all this anger when he starts to put down her looks. And he knows all the pressure points, the points of issue in her. He knows just exactly what to say to drive her crazy. When he finally gets sober and everybody congratulates him and he resumes his leadership in the family, she might get drunk and the anger comes out then and she becomes a wild savage and everybody says, well, she's the drunk. She's the wild person. It wasn't him at all. He could be a social manipulator. He could be so nice to everybody else and only his wife knows what kind of guy he is behind closed doors. The wife of the alcoholic says, oh, it is one of the worst. It is so hard. I congratulate any woman who can overcome that. Yeah, when the empath gets well, it takes guts. Allowing others to face their own emptiness instead of being a container for it. You see, we have been a container for other people's illness to save them. That's the saints we are. But now you're not going to do that. You allow them to face their own emptiness. You know how much they need you. I used to keep people around because I felt so sorry for them. I knew they needed me. I knew their life was completely empty. When they'd come to my home, I had music and pot and spaghetti, cooking on the stove, and it was just a party, and I knew without me they'd be so empty because these people are just empty. And that's why I would keep them in my life. The empath does that. No more. Life is short. You got to go forward. You need mass attractions to the true self so that you can help millions rather than a couple losers who are mooching off of you. True power begins when we step out of the so-called healer role we thought we were and reclaiming the true self. The true self can't have this around. The true self knows how time is limited, especially as you get older. And the true self has to select very carefully. You've got high boundaries. He selects his experience. It's no longer being in reaction to whatever unpredictably comes in. No more of that. If you don't have a secretary, and if you don't have a fence so they can't even get to the front door, you got to establish your own boundaries. The self is rich. The self is famous. But you got to get rid of the clutter to get to the clarity. Before you go about saving others, you have to return to the fragments of the self left behind in childhood. This takes work. This takes introspection. This takes solitude to just think, why does this mean something to me? Why am I interested in this? Well, let's explore this for a while. What was I doing as a child? Was I interested in animals in the wild, in butterflies, in music? What are these talents I want to explore? And why do I not feel comfortable around these people? It takes time to come back to the fragments that were splintered apart in childhood. Were you somebody who liked being alone in solitude? Somebody would always come around to bother you? Did they interrupt you? And just to be socially likable, you stopped what you were doing and adapted to the group, okay? I want you to return to that. What were you doing that made you mad internally, but you never said anything because you want to be agreeable and you want to be likable and you have to be nice. That's the biggest lie ever told. That's how evil governments maintain themselves and evil systems, is telling you you got to be nice. You got to be agreeable. That's how they keep you in line. You got to just not say anything if people surprise you and interrupt you. Go back to what you were doing, and if people interrupt you, scold them. Invasion of privacy is very bad. You have a right to develop yourself. Now, family patterns like this, inculcated, ingrained, calcified, concretized, unconscious, family patterns unravel when the narc loses, the narcissist that is, loses his gravitational pull. He's had a pull on you. When that stops, that's the first time freedom is felt. Now you feel freedom. When you make them face themselves, when you no longer jump when they pull, when they can't play you like a violin anymore, that's when, wow, how did I ever put up with this for so long? Then everything unravels in your mind, and then you start to realign, rebuild yourself. You'd never put up with that again. But you see, it was concretized. When things are made into concrete, you become unconscious of them. We're bringing things up to consciousness. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of memories of what you did in order to adapt to them, to keep them happy. You may have done awful things, cruel things, just to keep them happy. These things have to be accepted. But what I do is I think of people in the past, I think, well, that was the Danny era, it's over. Well, that was the Jimmy era, that's over. Well, that was the, Shane era, that's over. You see, not, oh, they're going to come back again, I want to fight it out with it. No, the era is over. These were baptism by fire. These were your lessons you had to go through. Okay, that's over. That era. Look at things in terms of era. Strata. That strata is done. That strata is done. Now go forward. Now, like I say, we attract mates who will reflect back the patterns from childhood so that we can correct them. You see, the narcissist's function is to reflect back unhealed wounds from childhood and to heal that by rejecting them. You overcome this jerk in your life, this loser who has control over you. You're superior to him, but he's got total control over you because of your unhealed wounds. You finish that, and that finishes the childhood thing. You correct this thing in the present, and it will correct the thing in the past that no longer has to be recreated. We live in a crazy world. It's a conspiracy. It controls you by the word connection. The mature person has connectedness. You go up the success ladder by shaking hands and getting to know people. Here you're a great scientist, but it doesn't matter. You progress in your field by going to cocktail parties and getting to know people. Now, how does that sound crazy or not? When your intelligence has nothing to do with other people, but you have to be connected. That's the biggest lie ever. Biggest lie ever, along with you have to be agreeable, you have to be nice. No, you have to be yourself. In a world obsessed with connection, solitude looks shameful and silence looks suspicious. Yeah, but you know what? It makes a leader. Yeah, if you can overcome the obstacle of them calling you names like antisocial, you'll be a leader of men. If you're in silence and solitude. Jesus was drained by the masses. He felt compassion for them, but he had to get away a lot to pray and to be alone. They will drain you, okay? If you want to be a leader, you have to conserve your energy. The main thing to me at this point is to protect my peace every single day. I detest chaos. The devil's in the room. And I used to live in chaos. I was born in chaos. My mother, may she rest in peace, I'm sure she wouldn't mind if I used her life as an example to all women, was a raging alcoholic. My father was the first alcoholic, and in maladapting to him, she drank, which is the most common maladaptation, and she became a raging alcoholic. The police were up to my house. There were brawls. The whole neighborhood could hear her yelling. I mean, to adapt to it, I would laugh at it. It was all I could do is, oh, here she goes again, you know. We're going to have music blaring outside in the patios of the whole, she used to think, I want the whole neighborhood to enjoy my music. And, you know, it was, here we go again, about twice a week. The police would come up, and, okay, that was my life. I found it funny. That was my only way of adapting to it. What was I going to do, cry? Now, at this phase of my life, I just want peace, because I've overcome all that. I married a man who put me in chaos with his children. They were alcoholic. He was alcoholic. Total chaos. Bedlam. And I attracted people and friends who brought chaos into me. It was just horrendous, many decades. And I just want peace. Protecting our peace. When love should never require anyone to lose themselves. But love does with most people. You have to give up that. You have to give up that. I saw a documentary on Onassis. Onassis made his lover, Marie Callas, a famous opera singer. When she would sing, people would just be silent, awestruck. She gave up her career for love for him, and he was a total abuser who would have affairs in front of her and everything. She would just put up with it. She lost herself, lost more of herself, lost more of herself. He became more abusive because as a woman declines, the man becomes more abusive. It was just terrible how we lose ourselves to adapt to love. But that is a very, very common pattern. We have to watch that. We deserve relationships that build us up, don't cut us down. And it becomes an unconscious thing. Women can be so much in love with somebody, even though they're abusive, they will just cut themselves off, get littler and smaller, and then love dwindles more and more, and abuse, we just can't do that. You know, and it happens in dysfunctional families where they want you down. You are the scapegoat, and that's never going to change until you cut it off. The decision to cut off your family is the ultimate act of self-love and self-respect. We deserve relationships that lift us up, not tear us down. You know, you can forgive people. You have to forgive. That's our instruction, to forgive other people. But that doesn't mean to take them back. You know, you forgive but not forget. Forgive them so you can be free of them. God helps me to forgive people so I don't have to think about them anymore. So they can be, okay, I'll forgive them no matter what they do. People say, well, they don't deserve forgiveness. They haven't apologized. They haven't made things right. That is not the point. You forgive them to be free of them, and you don't forget, and you don't have to take them back. Because you must have your selfhood so that you can do God's work, and it will bring you prosperity. Don't think it won't. God will give you prosperity for it. If you walk that narrow path, wide is the path to destruction, narrow is the path to life and light, okay? But you have to be whole first and free of a bunch of people holding you down. In conclusion, it's the only way to live fully. You're not a bad person to protect yourself. You're not selfish. You're not a hedonist. You're not a narcissist. You're not Miss Superior. They used to say, you're Miss Superior. Why? I'm not doing anything. Just because I wanted to be alone, they'd say I was Miss Superior. Be Mr. and Miss Superior. Be alone for a while. God, do your work for God on earth. Is that to awaken other people to what I'm talking about? Then do that.